what's one of your favorite weird or quirky creative projects that you've done just for fun?
Oh, wow. I have to choose, huh?
I know. So I'm like, I know you have a lot of them. Welcome to Wandering Weirdly, a podcast for curious adventurers, joyful rebels, and multi-passionate wanderers of every kind.
We're Annie and Thomas, friends exploring the messy magic of life and following curiosity wherever it leads.
Every episode is a journey through creativity, self-discovery, and the wonderfully tangled map of being a human.
Wandering Weirdly is a part of the Bold Departure Network, podcast for those craving an authentic and unconventional life on their own terms. Hello and welcome to Wandering Weirdly. I'm Thomas Beutel.
And I'm Annie Slade.
Well, it's another episode, Annie.
I know. We did the first one, and here we are again. We did. I'm impressed that twice in a row we made it.
I understand that you have some questions for me.
I do. I figured this would be a great opportunity in our first couple of episodes to let everybody get to know us a little bit and what Wandering Weirdly is about. And just to get a sense of what they are in for as we get into more and more conversations. So I do have some questions. Are you ready?
I don't know if I'm ready, but we'll just have to go for it.
Okay. Hang on to your hats.
All right.
Okay. First question. What made you realize, was there a moment or what made you realize that you weren't built for the mainstream path?
What made me realize? I don't know. I don't know if it was a realization as it just was a feeling from when I was a little kid. Let me start from the beginning. I was not born in the U.S. I was born in Germany, and my parents emigrated with me when I was like a year old, right here to San Francisco, and so I grew up in an immigrant family, right? Now my parents were learning English. English was my first language. They insisted that English was my first language. And yet, being new to the country meant that they weren't. It took them a while. It took them a long while to assimilate, right? Culturally, as far as being in the country, they were successful, pretty much right off the bat. But in terms of assimilating culturally, I think it took them quite a while, and that was my childhood. As an example, my dad and my mom, for that matter, weren't into any sort of sports, so I didn't grow up with baseball, basketball, football, any of that, right? In fact, I think the first professional sports game I ever went to was like only 18 years ago. It was in 2007. So anyway, to answer your question, when I was growing up as a kid, going to school, going to elementary school, going to middle school, going to high school, I always felt out of the mainstream, right? Because there were very few points of culture that I could connect with people. And I think that also had to do with my interests, where my interests were lying. Like, I was always interested in nature. Like, the thing that I wanted to do all the time was just be outside and catch frogs and catch newts and go fishing and catch butterflies. I used to have a big butterfly collection as a kid, because wherever I would go, I would try to collect like every different butterfly that I could find, right? That was sort of I have the collecting gene. But it also meant that I was outside a lot, and I really enjoyed that. So there's that. And then I was into trains, right? Because my dad, while I was growing up, he had a model train, so that was sort of where I was always tinkering. I was always tinkering with the trains and whatnot. Didn't go to movies much, wasn't at all like into the music scene until I was like, college and post college. So yeah, that's sort of like I always felt out of the mainstream. And by the time that I got to high school, I had come to terms with it, actually. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, this is just the way it is, and I don't mind. And I went to this great high school that there was like, the student body was like 2,400 people. It was a big high school, big here in San Francisco, big public high school. And so it was easy to be anonymous, I didn't have to be a part of any groups or anything like that because it was just so big, and I could just do my thing. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, yes, that's very interesting. I mean, I think for a lot of us, we kind of know early that, okay, I'm not into the same things everybody else is into, or the same conversations, or those kinds of things. So, yeah, thanks. I appreciate hearing your story. Growing up in an immigrant family definitely brings a new layer of complexity to feeling like an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that cultural thing.
Absolutely. Because there are those touchstones that, I mean, even though you were small when you arrived, your family of origin had a different culture than most of the people around you.
Right. And now that I'm also thinking about it, the people that we visited or came over to our house were all sort of extended family members, the few family members that actually were here in the Bay Area at the time. So it wasn't like we were, we didn't get together with my parents' work folks or whatever. So yeah, so it was even there when we got together with people, it was sort of people within our cultural space.
Yeah.
And not necessarily this culture here.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will talk more about that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Up next. I am sure you have a long list, so I'm going to let you choose. Maybe what's one of your favorite weird or quirky creative projects that you've done just for fun?
Oh, wow. I have to choose, huh?
I know. So I'm like, I know you have a lot of them. So yeah, pick one that's either just on the top of your mind or that just stands out as something that was really different that you enjoyed.
Well, I'm going to start by picking one that I'm still sort of working on. And it's called The Enchanted Tree. And it's actually an homage to a project, to an art piece that's at the Exploratorium, the museum here. It's a hands-on science museum here in San Francisco. And I went to the museum as a kid, and I still go to the museum. They now have Exploratorium After Dark, which is for adults, which means they serve liquors and stuff like that. So, but there is this art piece called The Enchanted Tree, and what it is it is a tree with branches that's covered with little lights, lamps, okay, in this case, because it was built in like 1971. And you would clap, and the lights would turn on and race up. It would be like it was racing up, and then when you stopped clapping, it would pause, and then for a moment it's like, okay, I wonder what's going to happen now, and then they sort of all go away to the tips of the branches. And I don't know, we were talking about genes, having the collecting gene. There's also the I love lights gene. I love blinking lights. Why? I don't know, but it's just one of those things. There's just something about blinking lights captivates me. It turns out that was built by a gentleman, I forget his name, but he was one of the first people to start building computers out of integrated circuit chips, right? And he built these modules basically flip-flops and registers and things like that out of integrated circuits. And if you had enough of these modules, I mean, it would be like a pretty big machine, but it was something you could build yourself, and you could build a very rudimentary computer. And so he built these little modules, these flip-flops, and he created the tree as a demonstration of what you could do with flip-flops, what you could do with electronics, especially when it came to creating art. And again, this is 1971, so this is, way before microprocessors, way before, what we have today. Well, I always enjoyed that, and now I am making a very modern version, which is you can buy programmable LEDs that you can program to be any particular light. And the branch has a whole series of these LEDs, and I am writing different programs to respond to sound and make it light up. Just the process of attaching all these LEDs to the branches is a fairly tedious process. So I have these bus wires. I have the bus wires that are the power, right, the 5-volt power, and then each LED has a data line that goes from LED to LED, and just getting that all soldered onto a branch is taking a lot of time. And the branch isn't small. I mean, it's like 3.5 feet tall and wide, and so it's also kind of a challenge to store it somewhere in the garage. It's actually behind me here. But that's something that I've been working on for a while. It's one of those things, Annie, when you start thinking about it, you get the desire and the motivation to actually start working on it again.
I do know all about that. Yes.
Right? So
after we wrap this up, you're about to go get the Enchanted Tree.
Start thinking about working on it again. But because it's about halfway done, and so I still have a lot of LEDs to apply and a lot of bus wires to put on and all that. But it's a fun little project, and I can't wait to see it all light up. And then I have to think about, like, what am I going to have it do? I mean, I can have it, respond to clapping, but there's also with modern electronics, you can also have it respond to whistles, or you can have it respond to, who knows what.
Yeah.
So
well, we're going to have a live demo. We're going to have a demonstration once it's finished, and
yeah, absolutely.
It will be our surprise guest for an episode. I love this because you have so much more patience than I do. That's so intricate and so interesting. As a lover of all trees, I can't wait to see it.
How about if I give you a little preview? I'm just going to grab one of the branches.
Do it.
Yeah, so your wish is my command. This is what it looks like. I'm going to try to get it close enough so you can see.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
oh, my goodness.
So what I had to do is I had to put these little eye rings or eye loops on there, and then thread copper wire through, and that's the bus wires.
Oh my gosh.
And then these are the LEDs, the programmable LEDs, and each one has a wire that goes to the next one for the data line. And then you can see here's a branch where I have the bus wires, but I haven't put the LEDs on. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So it's going to have to branch off from here and then go up there. So
very cool.
Yeah. And you can see it's not a small thing.
No, that is, your patience far exceeds mine, my friend.
Right. So you can see
I'd get about 3 into that and be like, nope, I'm all done.
It's a lot of soldering.
Uh-huh. But this is the joyful
thing.
Thank you
for asking.
Yeah. But I love that because separate episode, how these things circle around. Like, okay, I'm going to set this aside for a while. And then all of a sudden it's like, remember that thing I was doing? That sounds interesting again. Yeah.
I'm definitely in the mode of starting things and setting them aside and then picking them up. And I don't know how many projects I have. It probably is in the hundreds, literally in the hundreds of different projects.
Okay.
And so I've learned enough about myself to not criticize myself for not finishing stuff, because I do finish stuff. It just is, I do it in this sort of not haphazard way, but in little fits and starts, because that's the way I need to do things. I have my attention span is this big for a particular thing, and then I need to go somewhere else.
We're going to have a whole episode about that.
Yeah.
Because yes, there's so much to say about that. I love it. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
You're familiar with the book by Barbara Sher, Refuse to Choose, and she talks about scanners, which is another word for multi-passionate or multi-potentialite or Renaissance soul. And she identifies different types of scanners or different types of multi-potentialites, and there's one called the cyclical scanner, and that's where I identify the most, is just I go through these cycles.
Yeah, I get that.
I have this cycle where in the springtime I just need to go fishing a lot, and then around Christmas time I need to work on my trains, because I have this association with trains and Christmas. So those are major cycles, but within that I have these other projects as well.
I can't wait to hear more. Okay, we will definitely be covering more of this.
You probably have another question for me.
I do. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
I like this. Okay, since we are talking, in the course of this show, part of what we want to talk about are both the inner explorations and outer explorations. So this question, do you lean more towards adventure in the outside world, like travel, experiences, creating things, or inner world, like ideas, philosophy, spirituality, personal growth? Do you tend to explore in one way more than the other?
So my initial hit is definitely the inner world. But then you said creativity on the outer world. So I'm a little conflicted.
Maybe you are balanced, which is also a good thing.
I think the answer is that there's a really close connection between making and creating and feeling. Right?
Yep.
So there is, for me, there's this really close connection between the outside world of creating and the inside world of spirituality and understanding myself, because to me, the inner world is just endlessly fascinating.
I agree.
I think that what I can say is that there's sort of a little bit less for me about exploring the world, and definitely more for me about creating and making.
Okay. That's
right?
Interesting.
So there is that sort of difference there. I do like traveling now and then, but it's not the thing that's on top of my mind.
Okay.
On top of my mind is absolutely like, what's the next thing I can make? What's the next thing I learn to make? What's the next thing what does this mean? What does this color mean? What if I take this color and put it that color? And why do I like eyes so much? And why do eyes always appear in my art,
Ooh.
So,
I'm like, just hearing you talk, I'm like, okay, great. Another episode. There's so much. This is going to be so interesting.
Oh, and Annie, we're going to have to talk about you too,
That's next episode. We'll do that next time. But yeah,
right.
That's what I mean. I think this is going to be really interesting just for us also to say these things out loud and talk through it, but hopefully it will be equally interesting for the people listening to be like, okay, these two are very different in a lot of ways to see. I think it will also give people a good glimpse into the balance that we bring and what how each of us are kind of oriented in the world of being a multi-potentialite, being a misfit. And hopefully the takeaway is that there isn't a right way to do any of this, that all of it is welcome and valuable.
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely interested in these very questions.
Great.
The questions you're asking is like, yep, that's what I want to know about.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
Yeah.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
This one is hard. Okay. So it's hard for me to choose the next question.
Oh, okay.
I've got a few. What's the weirdest compliment you've ever received?
Oh. Okay.
I know.
That's a great question. What's the weirdest compliment?
Or maybe here's another way to think about it. Maybe not like that the compliment itself was weird, but maybe it's like your favorite compliment that other people would maybe not think of as a compliment, or that you felt like, oh my gosh, somebody recognized a thing about you that isn't mainstream, or complimented a thing that's part of your weirdness.
I
Just
think the
landed
one that
for you that like, oh, somebody
I
recognized
think the one
this.
that is always the most, I mean, for me, the most satisfying is when somebody says, oh, thanks for listening. Right?
It's such a skill that so many people do not have.
Yes, and I've worked at it because I didn't have that skill either. It's a skill that I find hard. It's hard to come by. Even for myself. I mean, that's what I'm saying is like when I grew up. So I have a younger sister who's 8 years younger, which means that for the first 10, 12 years of my life, I was essentially an only child, right? I mean, so I kind of came out of my childhood into early adulthood being fairly self-centered and not necessarily very empathetic. That's something that I've had to really work on and learn, and listening as well. My wife and I have been taking improv at the local improv theater, and boy, howdy, that's all about listening, right? And letting go, and all the things that improv teaches you, and it's wonderful, but it's still hard. So when someone tells me that, it's like, oh, thanks for listening like that. It's like I really appreciate hearing that, because it's something I'm working hard on.
I love that. And I think you're right. I mean, I think we humans are naturally self-centered, self-interested. I mean, that's our experience, is all up in our own head and our own space. And I love that you have intentionally worked on that, and that you do receive those compliments that like, thanks for listening. And that does feel good to have your like, yes, awesome. I have been doing the work, and it is showing in the way that people are experiencing me.
Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
It is a good one, right? I can't take credit, but these are the things that I'm always curious about. Okay, so last question.
Okay.
And I feel like maybe we will ask this one at the end of every episode, because it's us, and this will change on a regular basis. What are your like top 3 current obsessions?
Top 3
or interests, not necessarily.
Well, that's
obsessions.
an easy question. That's easy. So right now, I went down this great rabbit hole over the weekend of learning to program just a simple game in a game editing program called Godot, Godot. I'd never touched Godot before, and I just got in this kick where it's like, okay, I got to learn this. This is great, So that's one thing. I was just sort of I don't know where it came from. I mean, I've been thinking about 1 or 2 games, and then it's just like it became overwhelming. And I said, okay, I got to start learning this. I went to YouTube and then downloaded the program, and then lots of ChatGPT to help me along and all that. I did this little challenge for myself last week to draw in the style of Peter Max, the pop artist of the 1960s and 70s. I love his art. It's colorful, and And so I did a few pieces in Procreate on the iPad, and I had a blast with it. It was a lot of fun. I learned a bunch of Procreate stuff, referencing and masking and gradients and all that kind of stuff. So even though I didn't come up with something too interesting, that wasn't the point. The point was I learned a lot, and so that's going pretty well. I mean, for me, my model railroad, my trains are always there as an interest. I'm always thinking about that. So half of the garage is model railroad, and it's something I've been working on here since 1996. Yeah, so it's going to be 30 years.
Shut up. I'm sorry. The 90s was 10 years ago. Be quiet.
Right? Is that right? 30? Yeah, 30 years.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Next year is going to be 30 years since I started my model railroad. That's
what?
Crazy. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah. Those are the three things.
Okay. I love that.
The trains are probably going to pop up often when we ask this question every episode.
That's okay. It's nice to, I feel like, and then over time, even for ourselves, we will notice these patterns. What things stick around, and then what things are kind of ever shifting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Can I ask you?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Three things that you've been thinking about.
I was not prepared for this. No. Three things. Current obsessions or interests. I have started taking my writing seriously. I am working on a book about intentional travel. So that I have been spending roughly an hour every morning writing. And so I am down that rabbit hole of, the content is already in my brain. Mm-hmm. Writing a book is a whole new challenge.
Getting it all out on paper.
Yeah. So taking everything that I've stored up in my brain and putting it on paper in a way that is somewhat cohesive and makes sense. I'm
curious. Do you use paper or do you type?
I type. I can type way faster than I can write. So
okay. All right.
I also write a lot of things by hand, but for this particular project, I type because that's just so much faster. Mm-hmm. And along with that, things about publishing and book marketing. And so, we'll just lump that all in together.
Sure.
Other things, I have, just last night, I have never been, visual art has always been just a real struggle for me. For years, I always said, I'm not creative, because most of us, I think of visual art. Like, I can't draw. And, my brain does not see the world in the shapes and colors and shades that visual artists use, right? Anyway, I've been dabbling here and there of just like the most basic, what is that like to sketch and to that sort of thing. And then I would say the other current interest obsession is like I have this ridiculous backlog of knowledge and experiences, mostly related to travel, that I want to do something with. Right now I'm in the brainstorming of like, what can I make with all of this that is fun for me? I'm terrible at doing things that aren't fun, FYI. If it's not fun, like, I'm out.
I know that.
If something is a grind, I will not last very long. So yeah, I'm in that phase of like, I want to be able to share all of this and make it useful for people. And so that's kind of where I'm at, is like in that brainstorming creative possibilities of like, okay, what can this look like? What do I want to make with all of this stuff that's fun for me to make and also useful for other humans?
Is the act of brainstorming fun for you?
Yes, until it gets overwhelming. Until I'm like, there's so many things in this brain, and now this list is so big. Where do I even start?
Yeah. I get that.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I think that brings us to the end of this episode of Wandering Weirdly, where we all got to know Thomas a little bit better.
And next week, we get to learn a little bit about Annie.
Oh, hang on.
I'll have my questions ready.
Great. It'll be interesting.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Wandering Weirdly.
You can find show notes and past episodes at wanderingweirdly.com.
Tune in next time for another wild and wandering exploration.
Don't forget to check out bolddeparturenetwork.com for more podcasts about authentic and unconventional living.